This week on Down the Right Field Line with Marlins Nation, the Marlins are done with the first half. After going 3-4 on the road trip, now look forward to the second half as they open up in Miami for a 4-game series against the first place Nats. See what happens and who's closing out games in the 9th now. All that and more coming up next. Welcome to Down the Right Field Line with Marlins Nation. After the Marlins finished the first half with a disappointing 3-4 record, so it gets worse as no Marlin was announced for the All-Star game. Nothing. And it was pretty much uneventful as the National League wins their 3rd straight All-Star game, romping the American League 8-0. Melky Cabrera wins MVP, which would guarantee home field advantage for the National League. We'll touch up on that a little later in the show. And so now the Marlins coming into the second half at 41-44, 9 games off the pace from Washington, 5 out of the wild card, and kick off a huge 4-game series against these Nats. Alright, so game 1 of the series, you got your ace, JJ, on the mound. Problem is, you're facing Jordan Zimmermann. Now, Jordan Zimmermann, believe it or not, comes in with the lowest ERA of all Nationals starters. So, you've already seen what Zimmermann has done. He's already pitched here against the Marlins, and Marlins won that game, but, you know, it's still, that National pitching rotation is incredible, and Zimmermann did not disappoint. In 6 innings, he just allowed 4 hits and no runs. This guy was lights out. And JJ, for some reason or another, he just didn't have his stuff, allowing 5 runs in 5 1/3 innings. That's not the way you want to start the second half of the 2012 season. The Marlins had a chance in the 7th inning after Buck singled in a run with runners at the corners and 1 out. And Kearns on the first pitch lines into a double play to lefty Michael Gonzalez. So I think that was a huge point in that game where it could have turned, the tides could have turned. That didn't happen. Not to mention Bryce Harper, this young rookie, young phenom, just wreaking havoc on the bases. Early in the game, Harper singles to left, and Lomo lackadaisically gets that ball, and Harper just guns it. He's not even, he knows that he's going to get to second base. Reminds me of a Pete Rose type of thing, and he just takes off. Lomo bobbles it, he can't get him out at second base, and pretty much the very next play, it wasn't even a play, JJ had the ball, he was off the mound, kind of on the mound, but he was looking down with the ball in his hand, and Reyes and Hanley were talking to each other like it's all good, and you know, you see Reyes smiling and all that, and then you see Harper running down third base, and it scared the living daylights out of Reyes. He's like, oh my God, and he gets to third base, and it's something that the Marlins can't do that. This game, it was completely sluggish, and we lose to the Nats 5-1. So moving on to game 2, you had Miami's own, Hialeah's own, Gio Gonzalez versus Mark Burley. 2 lefties that could have ended up on the other teams, but ended up Gio with the Nats, Burley with the Marlins, and great seasons for both. Gio coming in at 12-3, and Burley 8-8, but I think he's been pitching a lot better than 8-8. So this game was all pitching. Gio Gonzalez goes 6 innings, allowing 2 runs on 5 hits and 9 strikeouts. And Burley, oh boy, Burley, in 7 innings, allowing 1 run and again 7 strikeouts for his 9th victory of the season. Burley, I think, has kind of stepped it up and become that guy that we were expecting, you know. And you don't want to quite say ace, but it kind of looks like he's pitching that way right now. So you got to give him the crown there. And just the way the Marlins were able to scratch and claw here in the 4th inning. Reyes singled and Infante bunted him over. How many times have you seen that this season where the Marlins is playing small ball and Carlos Lee drives him in? I mean, things like that is great to see for this team. Complete win. And let's not forget Sheck getting the 5-out save. Heath Bell was not in this game. Sheck got the save. And Rob, I think this is a win, a type of win that the Marlins need to get accustomed to if they want to make it places.
Yeah, you know, you were very hesitant to say that Burley is our ace, but he's really stepping into that role. And this first 2 games of the second half really showed how the 2012 Marlins are different than, you know, years past. In years past, you had that power guy in the front of the rotation with JJ. You had Ricky in the front of the rotation, all these power guys. And now this season, you're seeing Burley picking it up, Zambrano picking it up. And Zambrano used to be a power pitcher. He's a little bit less. And, you know, I'm ready to say Burley is our ace because JJ has not stepped it up this season. He's been, I don't know whether it was the surgery that he had last year or what the case is. He just hasn't had it. And a lot of it has to do with his mechanics. And they tried to work on his mechanics early on in the year. But some of it I think is just mental. He's not mentally confident in his pitches. And you can tell that when he can't get strikes when it's like a 3-0 count or something like that. And this doesn't help that the Marlins aren't producing offensively. So when you have that combination, it makes for a really bad year for a starting pitcher. And just like Tim Lincecum, you know, look at Tim Lincecum out in San Francisco. He's been so dominant for a couple years, and this year's just having an off year. I hope it's not JJ's off year because we need him. And if you go back to episodes past where we predicted the Marlins would make the playoffs, we said the only way we do that is if we have a good year out of JJ. And we actually said that JJ would win the Cy Young. If he doesn't have that type of year, it's going to make it really hard for us to make the playoffs. So we need him to turn it around, get back on the horse, and, you know, let's keep moving. As far as Mark Burley goes, you know, that's a great guy to have there. And that's why we signed him. Number 2 starter that could step into that ace role if anything happens with our ace. And that's exactly what he's been doing. And he's been keeping guys off balance, and it's been keeping us moving. And then as far as C-Check goes, great job. The thing that we talked about in our last episode about Guillen going by closer by committee, and it works. It's working so far. It's exciting to see a new look to the back of the bullpen because, you know, guys aren't going to feel comfortable in their roles. If they are bad, they're going to get moved to a different inning, or they're not going to be used at all. And, you know, Bell, I think that would be good for his psyche to kind of get, you know, put back a little bit, relax, get eased into the 7th and 8th inning. Once he gets back into form, I'm ready to see him in the 9th.
Definitely, you're preaching to the choir here. And in Game 3, you had the Nats ace Steven Strasburg versus Ricky Nolasco, who has had success in the last few starts. And if I were to tell you that Strasburg allowed no runs in 6 innings, a walk, and 7 strikeouts, that's a good game with a win. There's a problem here. The Marlins were 1 for 13 with runners in scoring position and left 11 men on base. We got to Strasburg. It wasn't that this guy was lights out. He was not lights out today. And it was just disappointing. The Marlins had the bases loaded twice in this game. And twice they weren't able to do anything. So with the bases loaded in the 9th inning, the Marlins could not score. Nobody out. And, you know, a guy like Tyler Clippard, who has had success against the Marlins, didn't have the stuff either. So you have 2 guys who normally are lights out against the Marlins not have it. And the Marlins just couldn't get it done. And poor Ricky had a no-no going into the 5th. And stupid Strasburg broke it. He's batting .360. And he broke the no-hitter and eventually got the ball rolling, scored the first run for the Nats, and the Nationals win it 4-0. A little note on that game has to do with Bryce Harper again. Ozzie felt that there was a lot of pine tar on Harper's bat, that it extended the limit of 18 inches from the handle of the bat. And so Ozzie took exception to it and complained to the umpire. And the irony here is that Davey Johnson did the same thing a month ago, Joel Peralta, who had pine tar in the glove. Harper's next at bat, he comes up with a new bat, and yet he points the bat at Ozzie and acts like he's checking the bat to make sure that there's not the pine tar passes a certain limit. So a little bit of cockiness in this guy, and I think we've known that coming into the league here and being drafted and all that, that he's that type of guy. He's got a lot of, intestinal fortitude. He doesn't care, and he doesn't. I'm not saying he doesn't respect the game, because he does play hard, but he does whatever he feels like. And Ozzie had great things to say about him up to that point. And now that he showed disrespect to Ozzie, now I don't think Ozzie looks at him very favorably. So here we go. Game 4. The Marlins are down 2-1 in the series to the Nats, and you don't want to be down 2-1 to the first place team. You got Edwin Jackson versus Carlos Zambrano. Two veterans. Zambrano in his last 6 starts, 0-6 coming into it. And, you hate to see that, because he's had flashes of brilliance this season and just flat out stunk in other situations. So, going in 0-6, you need for him to have a quality start. And, again, rocky start. It was qualified as a quality start. In 6 innings, he allowed 8 hits, 3 runs, and walked 4 Nats. But he was saved by the double play. The Marlins turned 4 double plays behind him, and now lead the National League with 90 double plays. That, I think, speaks volumes for the middle infield of Reyes and Infante. Great double play combination, and just the fact that we lead all of the National Leagues in double plays, I think, is great. And as far as the offense was concerned, in the 3rd inning, Zambrano and Reyes get singles. Boney sacrifices both of them, and then Lee drives them in with a 2-run single. And then later on in the inning, Hanley hits a blast to left center field on the long ball lagoon for a 2-run shot. The Marlins take a 4-2 lead, because the Nats had a 2-0 lead before that. And then later on, the Nats got it closer to 4-3. And then, so now we move on to the bottom of the 7th, where Ruggiano was brought in as a double switch, leads off the inning with a double. And then you had Reyes bunt him over to 3rd. And then you had Bonifacio up, and what does he do? He does something that the Marlins haven't done all season. He puts down the squeeze play. Ruggiano scores. It's ruled a sacrifice because Bonifacio's out at first. But it's great to see that the Marlins manufactured runs that way. You saw it in Game 2 of the series. You see it here in Game 4. And Bell with a nice shutout 8th inning, allowing the hit, but coming in with 2 strikeouts. And then the closer, this time, Mike Dunn, as Sheck was out with the flu. Mike Dunn gets the job done. The tying run was on base, but he struck out LaRoche for the final out. And the Marlins take the split. I'll take the split, man. The way that these Nats have been playing, you take the split. No harm, no foul. We're still 3 games under. We're still 9 games out. And 6 games out of the wild card. Rob, what did you like about the last 2 games here against the Nats?
Well, the 2 themes that I've been noticing the whole season are missed opportunities and inconsistency. And you saw the missed opportunities all over Game 3. 1 for 13 with runners in scoring position. A playoff team is closer to 500, maybe even above 500 when you have runners in scoring position. We can't have that going into the second half. the way I always see it is the first half is its own season, the second half is a totally different season. You see teams every single year be horrendous in the first half, come back in the second half, make the playoffs, win the World Series just like the Cardinals did. So it's not too late, guys, but you can't carry over the things from the first half into this half with inconsistencies such as this. You know, you were talking about Game 4. Marlins were coming through in Game 4. You have Hanley homering. You have Bell coming in the 8th inning, having a great inning. You know, we need to carry these things game to game. We can't have one game where we can't score a run and the next game we win 10-0 or something like that. We need to be more consistent. Our offense needs to be more consistent, and that comes from the top bottom. You need Reyes to get on base more. You need Bonnie. I think Bonnie's brought a lot back to the team now with his speed. He was running all over the place in this series. And seeing his defense in center field, there was a few balls that he ran down that I don't think anybody else could run down. So everybody's coming back. You're seeing a lot of things that you want to see in order to get us out of the bottom of the division and get us rolling towards the top. Ruggiano's still hot. He doubled a couple times in the series. So if we can get all these things squared away, the pitching, as we've talked about, our starting pitching, you can almost say is probably one of the best, not by ERA, just by quality starts. Like we mentioned in our previous show, #1 in quality starts. So the starting pitching is keeping us in games. Now we need the rest of the offense to step up in order for us to start making a run. Again, the wild card is within reach, but we're aiming for that division. That's, we need to get red hot, especially against the Nationals right now, and then against the Braves, and that way we can start, going up. I've noticed that the Mets recently have been struggling. They might start going downhill. The Phillies are probably going to be around the same place, so this is our opportunity to pounce. Now, as far as Bryce Harper is concerned, just like Ozzie said, this guy has a lot of talent. If you make it to the major leagues at the age of 19, you have to have a lot of talent. And I thought his thing was, that's a young person's mistake. And, putting too much pine tar, fine, you made a mistake, all right. But keep it to yourself. No need to point and do all this stuff. And like you said, Rafi, if you're going to play the game hard and you're going to play the game right, pointing your bat is not playing the game right. So, that's over with. I don't think you'll see any repercussions the rest of the season. But hopefully Harper calms down and, we won't have any more drama as the Marlins start making a run to the top.
So the Fish settle for a split against the Nats and now head for a 6-game road trip to Chicago and Pittsburgh. Alright guys, as we've mentioned before, we've opened up a segment for you, the fans, to send us videos on anything Marlins, any comments you want to send us via videos on Marlins baseball or baseball in general. And we received a video from Real Joanna Perez. So let's check it out.
They're really huge Marlins fans. You could follow them on Twitter at Down the Right Field Line. All these Marlins fans, all you bandwagoners, let me just tell you something. You, alright? We don't need you. All you guys do is talk shit. The Marlins suck this, the Marlins suck that, Ozzie this, blah, blah, blah. Shut the up, alright? We don't need you to show up to the ballpark. We don't need you to be talking. You guys are not a manager. You guys watch baseball maybe like once a week, alright? I watch baseball every day that is on. When we make it to the playoffs and if we make it to the World Series, I don't want to see none of you people in 49th Street in Hialeah because I'll go crazy, alright? Just like when the Miami Heat won, you guys only watch the playoffs, alright? You guys don't watch the season.
Wow.
Man. I mean, I understand what you're saying, Joanna, but let's be honest, once the Marlins make it to the playoffs, if they do make it to the playoffs, you want as many fans packing that house. What's your take?
Well, Raph, you know, I understand her frustration. You know, growing up as Marlins fans, you and I, we heard all kinds of stuff from other fans, especially Yankee fans, about, you know, oh, the fish suck, all this stuff, and it gets really frustrating. But you know, that year in 2003, it made it all worth it. All those losing years, and if you're a fan of a team for all the losing years, and you watch every game, and then they make the playoffs, and then they win the National League, and then they win the World Series, it just makes it that much bigger. And even though all these fans are just kind of, they'll tag along at the end, you know inside that you're going to get more joy out of that championship than they will ever get, just because you watched all those losses. You watched all the frustration. You were watching us, and us telling you about, you know, how frustrated we are because Bell can't close out the ninth. Look how far we've come. And, you know, all these fans, yeah, it does get a little frustrating at times, because then they'll be out there in the next year if we're losing. They're going to ditch off the end. But, you know, that's the way sports is. That's the way Miami sports are. But, you know, I agree with you, Rafi. We need them there, but thanks for the support.
Definitely. Joanna, it was a pleasure meeting you. Thanks for all the love and support that you've given down the right field line. And that wraps it up for this show. From all of us here at Down the Right Field Line, we'll see you next time. But before we let you go, we'll leave you with our random video of the week, which we like to call the Major Freak Out. Later.